Coming up on MacBreak Weekly, I, Mikah Sargent, not Leo Laporte, sit down with Andy Ihnatko, Lory Gill, and Rene Ritchie to talk about everything Apple. Of course, it is MacBreak Weekly. We talk about Apple being criticized for its handling of some of the criticisms of the Chinese government, as well as many a rumor. You're not going to want to miss this because we also play games, and I wear a watch on my necktie. It's wild. Check it out.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode number 684, recorded Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. It has a smell. This episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Hover. Use a domain name that truly represents you and your passion. Visit hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. And Calm, the #1 app to help reduce your stress, relax your mind, and to help you sleep. Get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/MacBreak. And by Zapier. Zapier connects all your business software and handles the work for you so you can focus on what matters most. Right now through November, go to zapier.com/MacBreak for your free 14-day trial. It is time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover all of the latest news from Apple. I am Mikah Sargent, not Leo Laporte, and Leo Laporte is on vacation. But you know who's not on vacation? It's Rene Ritchie, all the way from the wilds of Canada, our pal from iMore.com, as well as Vector, which you can find at iMore.com/Vector, which is a podcast and a video production and so much more. It's Vector for your ears, Vector for your eyes, and Vector for your heart. Hello, Rene Ritchie.
Hi, Mike. And you made my original logo animation for me. Thank you so much again.
Oh, I was happy to do it. And those are Vector orange headphones, aren't they?
Yeah, and I've got a Vector orange Pixel phone, so I'm all in. I'm all in today.
Whoa. Hold on. Now, when I signed up for this show, I thought this was about like Apple stuff. What's that Pixel doing in your hand?
No, I figured because Leo's not here, there's not going to be a Surface, and there's not going to be at least 17 Android phones, so I have to do my part to make up for it.
Speaking of, I don't have it with me, but I have started to become Captain Two Phones myself. I've got a OnePlus 7 Pro that I carry with me along with my iPhone.
Nice.
Yeah, so
You've changed, Mikah.
I know I've changed. What is going on? In fact, accusing me of changing is managing editor of iMore. It's Lory, the awesome possum Gill. How you doing, Lory?
Hi, Mikah.
Oh, this is exciting.
I remember you when you were all Apple. I don't even know you anymore.
I remember you when we did the iMore show together, and this is feeling very iMore showy, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, me too.
It's throwback.
It really is.
We have a guest. No, wait. We're not doing the iMore show, so it's not a guest. WGBH Boston's Andy Ihnatko, Ihnatko.com. Hello, Mr. Ihnatko. How are you today?
I'm not quite as my elan has been dampened somewhat to think that I've been demoted into guest mode. I mean, that's fine. I mean, it's. I was going to compliment you on your lovely shirt and matching pocket square, and I wasn't even going to assume that like you'd bought both of them as a set. It's because you're such a dapper Dan. I would have imagined that perhaps you bought the shirt, liked the shirt so much you went out and combed Alibaba or whatever to find a pocket square to match it, or even like just took the shirt to a tailor and said, "Could you cut a pocket square out of the back and I'll only wear it with blazers."
Yeah, see, that's why. I got to keep the blazer on. I don't want to. See, you figured out my secret. Now, Andy, they put you right next to me so that I could do this as I make jokes about you being a guest on the iMore show. But then afterward, I get to go, oh, I'm sorry. I adore you, and I am, frankly, the guest today, and so honored to be joining you on MacBreak Weekly here today to talk about everything Apple. And, I started the day talking about iOS, so we're going to get into that as well. There's so much to talk about. So why don't we go ahead and dig into it? In fact, this is a news story that has been sort of front of mind for me recently. I've got, I talked about this a little bit on Tech News Weekly, but I've got a couple of friends who are from mainland China originally, have moved to the United States, work here, and a friend who has spent most of his life in Hong Kong and considers himself a citizen of Hong Kong, and hearing the perspectives on those stories and seeing some of the American companies that are wading pretty doggone deep into the appeasement of certain entities and the censorship and things like that are happening. This is getting interesting, and now we've got lawmakers who are saying, Apple, there's some censorship going on here that you're doing with apps for the sake of the Chinese government. And so I wanted to kick this off because I'm curious, sort of the take from within, as it were, and hearing that in comparison to the perspective that I've had of folks who now live in the U.S. but have the perspectives of both mainland China and Hong Kong, and where that comes in. So, Rene, what's going on here in terms of lawmakers talking about app censorship at the behest of the Chinese government? Is the quote?
Yeah, I think it's important. Obviously it weighs in because Apple's an American company and it has to do business under the regulatory influence of America. But this is the same government that a couple of years ago wanted backdoor access into iPhone. So I try to keep the politicians out of it as much as possible because I think they're just going to politic. And I think the bigger concern for everyone is just how much influence China is able to exert over companies that are not in China, and not by going through a regulatory process like in the US or in the EU. And I disagree with a lot of the EU decisions. And I think they are trying to legislate well beyond their borders as well, but at least we have the semblance of some sort of mechanism that we can participate in and try to influence. And with China, there's none of that. We just get an article from an anonymous person in a state-run newspaper that says sigh and you hurt our feelings, and the biggest companies in the world wheel about and dance. And I think that's hugely concerning. And I'm not going to completely steal something that Andy Ihnatko has been saying for years, but a lot of the stuff is some of the stuff is ludicrous. It's done in public. Like being upset at the NBA creates a Streisand effect. It's theater. It's ridiculous, but it makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. And there are things I know just by virtue of having relationships with people in Apple, and I can ask questions and get answers to them. Mm-hmm. But there's no public policy about what the U.S. government is asking for, what the Chinese government is asking for. What is the canary that tells us China is asking for backdoor access, like root access, or for security keys? I like to think there are lines that aren't being crossed, but how do we know when those bridges are even being built? And that, I think, is the danger. I think there's a lot of hype because there's so many things happening in the news all at once, the NBA and Hong Kong and universities and all of these things it's a confluence of propel Apple into the news. But underneath that, I think, are a lot of legitimate concerns that we just do not have very much insight into.
Yeah, and so Lory, it seems like that is the reasonable approach to things, to say that we don't quite have, especially this has been one of my concerns too, approaching this as an American and from my perspective, and not having the inside track with the companies and things like that, where it's been very easy for me to sort of criticize things that I see as a right to free speech and all the things that are involved with that. It's just, I don't know how you feel about this, but when I see a company that, it's very easy for me to sort of stand behind and say, oh, look at the cool things that they're doing here, the products that they're making that I love, but also the things that they're doing for the environment and all these positive things. And then to see this and see how it runs counter to what I think of a company and the people behind the company, that's where it's been kind of a bummer for me. Do you feel that? Right. What are your thoughts there?
So I think of this, what's happening currently with Hong Kong and with the Chinese government and all U.S. companies that are they're having issues with the whole subject. what I'm seeing, there's two things. First, that's the Chinese government that's trying to impose their rules and regulations within their own country. And I think global companies have to understand that, and they have to do that. And this is something we definitely have zero understanding of. I don't own an international company. I don't know how that works and how to maintain the different laws and rules within each country. I know that they're trying to do that. All these countries are trying to do that. But where I see the fear coming in, and I've said this before, it's when the Chinese government is now trying to impose censorship here in the United States. That to me is the biggest thing for us to be afraid of right now. It's not whether or not an app is pulled from the App Store in China because Chinese law says the app shouldn't be there. It's when the Chinese government comes into the U.S. and says, we don't like what you did here. And so then the American companies apologize for it and change policies and do things differently because of it. This to me is where we're seeing the most frightening thing to come, which is censorship in the US because of finance, because we're allowing another country to tell us how we should or shouldn't do things. And that is a bigger beast, a demon, than I think any other, what they do in their own country. We should impose or shouldn't impose our own views on that. They are currently imposing their views on us right now by making these companies apologize for things that have been done or said against the Chinese government or in support of Hong Kong.
I think that's very well put. That's that these it's sort of being brought to us, whether we kind of play a full role in it or not. And that's kind of been, again, my concern with this. And we also have Tim Cook. It's a bit of an interesting tie-in here. Tim Cook serving as the chairman at a Chinese business school. So I'm curious, Andy, you are, a full-on journalist and have that perspective. And I want to ask you, is this a matter of companies in the United States looking at optics and trying to do the right thing for their global business, or is this sort of it was just kind of at the wrong kind of time that Tim Cook announces or it's revealed that he's serving as chairman at this business school? Or is this like appeasement? I mean, is this part of the appeasement?
No, I would assume that this has been done sort of this is just the wrong time that it happened. As what I understand is that it's not like being named it's not like being named CEO to the board of a company. It's not like being the CEO of a company. This is something that this organization brings in CEOs for 2 or 3 year terms to advise the educational track, to make sure the students are getting a global understanding of what the business markets are like. Whether Tim has any real business doing that is up to debate. I don't see it as particularly harmful. However, it also underscores for me, it underscores how many signs we have that Apple is willing to do whatever it needs to do in order to keep its Chinese market happy. Mm-hmm. They are not giving outward signs of what they're willing to do to honk off China if they feel as though there's a line that they don't want to cross anymore. I mean, we're talking about for now the saving grace for Apple has been that every time that the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, has made a demand of Apple, they have made demands that only affect how Apple products behave within China and within what China believes as its immediate sphere of influence. So they can say, you can't have any VPN apps that work in the Chinese App Store. And because they believe that their territories are their territories, they can also say, and you're not going to have a Taiwanese flag appear in emoji in these other 2 regions of the world. Mm-hmm. The problem happens when if you go into the App Store right now, you can get the Voice of Tibet app, which obviously China is going to have absolutely no part of, and they would probably love to eradicate it if they could. What happens when what happens if the Chinese government says that it really upsets us that you have this this app that is so offensive, that is designed to be so offensive to everyone in China, to remind us of the terrible history that has happened with this province. And so we would wonder why you would want to instigate us by having this app available to so many billions of iPhone users worldwide. What happens when that email happens, when that editorial happens in a communist newspaper in China? Does Apple say, "You're right, we're sorry, we're going to take that down"? We feel, or are they going to point to, "Oh well, we feel as though this is political speech, and we say right here in our developer agreement, again, everybody, we're not making a decision here. Our hands are tied. We're using this is just developer guidelines that we make everybody stick to, whether it helps us preserve a $40 billion market or not." This is what worries me, and I don't. Yeah. The clock is running out for Apple to make it really, really clear of what their role is on a global stage. And I'll just wind this up by saying that there is no more powerful tool for a government to clamp the irons tighter on its citizens than the phone that they voluntarily put in their pockets every single day. And all the government has to do is simply say, we need to have this surveillance app that's created by the government that has to be pre-installed on every phone you ship in our territory. And that's when that's when every single person gets tracked to a degree even far beyond the ratio of video cameras to citizens in places like Shenzhen. We know what their playbook is, particularly in China, particularly if you are a Muslim in China, and you wonder if this is just practice for softening up the entire entire citizenry for expecting that you are going to have to prove how trustworthy you are and how harmonious you're going to be with the rest of our society here. And if you are, then of course we can give you extra benefits. If you're not, we're going to have to, well, we can't trust you. We can't trust you. That's the sort of stuff that could really, really easily be happened. But just by simply having a leader saying, by the way, here's the official app, you're going to have it on every single phone. And by the way, Apple, every single other phone maker that wants to have an app store within our country, you have to be able to, we don't care what your app development guidelines are. We have to have hardware permissions all the way down to the metal for everything we want to do with this phone. I just want some assurance that while Tim is saying all these positive things about being a global presence and being good for everybody, and also being good to our partners in China, that they are going to be good corporate citizens and not create chaos wherever they step.
That's my big concern. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say there's two things I think or a couple things that I think are worth elaborating on there. One is that because of the current sensitivity, a lot of stuff that would just be normal course of business is getting amplified. Like I believe that university has a ton of US CEOs on it, and they all take turns being chairman. If I was Tim Cook right now, I'd say, "Oh, Zuckerberg, you can have this next 3 years. Call me in like 6. Maybe
destroy
I'll have
them
time.
from
so
within."
Busy. New iPhone launches. Can't do it right now. Really honored to be asked. But that was just it was just his turn out of all the CEOs that are on that list. The other thing is that China, again, is the super obvious one, but we've seen backdoor legislation passed in Australia. France is asking for the same kind of data localization that China is asking for. We've seen Cook, try to engage with the Trump administration in a song and dance that might just be every bit as nimble as with some of the Chinese authorities. He has this relentless pursuit of engagement. And I've said before, my worry is that engagement eventually becomes appeasement. But there are so many things going on that stage that, to me, it's not a China issue. It's if Apple is willing to fight over backdoor access in the US, that's got to be global. And if they're willing to withhold security keys from France and China, that's got to be global, because eventually everyone, or places we don't even think about right now, are going to ask for that. And I'm old enough to remember when BlackBerry installed Squid servers for Singapore and a bunch of other countries so that they could eavesdrop on everybody's BBM messages, and BlackBerry didn't leave the market. They just did it. So all this stuff keeps happening. And I agree with Andy completely. We need white papers to describe the technology, and then we need clear guidance on the policies. Otherwise, we'll never know what's happening.
That's been my biggest concern with all of this is once you start making these changes, where does it continue to go? Because speaking specifically to something that Andy had mentioned earlier, there was an app that helped protesters in Hong Kong track where police were last seen. And the app was criticized by the Chinese government for enabling violent protesters, as the sort of party line is. And they said, by Apple being a part of that, by Apple, providing this app store that happened to have this app in it, then maybe the company was complacent with violence, and so through that recognition, or it's guilt by association there. That guilt, whether it's there in the first place at all, and that's my concern. Is, like you said, then suddenly Apple making a device that has encryption that doesn't allow police to be able to get into a protester's phone. Does that mean that they're complacent too? How far does it go from there?
See, and it's difficult when this is why it really disappoints me when Apple, again, there should be a version of the Apple logo available only in Cupertino, where it's just wrists that are bound with the Apple in a nice Johnny Ive sort of handcuffs. Ooh, look at that. We have app guidelines, and we have no choice but to take this app down, because then talk about bad timing. Google finally added the feature. They bought Waze, the Waze app a few years ago. They're finally adding one of its most useful features, which is, oh, by the way, Johnny Law is about 2 miles up the road there, so if you might want to check your speed. And not be caught in the speed trap. And of course, law enforcement is really mad about this, because they're saying, well, this is going to let people, drunk drivers will be able to avoid checkpoints, and making really weird arguments about, oh, well, if they know the cops are there, then they're going to ambush the cops and stuff like that. But now, if you were in a particularly puckish mood and you were concerned about all this, you would basically want to say, oh, Apple, we're glad that you took down that Chinese app to protect Chinese people from these lawbreakers. Won't you do the same thing for us in America and take down the Waze app? I'm sure if you could have a long, protracted fight with Google over this, nothing bad will happen. And then see if they say, oh, well, I guess our handcuffs aren't that tight after all. We can sort of shimmy out of them because of in this line of longitude or whatever. So this is why I really wish that they would have just like when Steve Jobs posted a public letter on an issue that was important to him, i.e. The defective antennas on the iPhone 4. So it's okay to simply say, this is me in my own voice. We're not going to make this as a marketing thing. I'm just saying, here are the reasons why we do the things we do, or here's why we made this decision in this case. And it's sometimes you really do have to be honest about why you, a $1 trillion business, have to do things that you as an individual, not a billionaire individual, but still as an individual, may or may not agree with. Which is not to say that I'm still going to agree with what they do, but at least we know that they're not hiding behind, oh no, we know that these millions of people are just disappearing, but oh gosh, ooh, we would like to not comply with the law that makes this government able to track people who have this letter sequence in their names, but again, we're just complying with local laws. Gosh, wish we could do something about that. You can. Because you can decide not to, like Tony Stark, you can decide to no longer manufacture weaponry. That's always your choice to do. If you're not going to do that, if you're not going to fight this fight, it's okay for you to say that this issue is important to us, but it is not that important to us that we're willing to act upon it to interfere with this particular action. So
now, do we have precedent there? Has anyone ever said that, yes, this is a problem, but it's not enough of a problem that we're not going to keep making apps and continue to give the government there what they want? That doesn't seem like something that any company's going to do. Like, it sounds like you're saying
Google obviously did it in 2011. Oh. They basically said not only was China asking for hooks into their search engine, but also they had recently been caught tampering. I think they're tampering with emails and industrial espionage. And Google at that time in 2011 said, "Okay, guess what? We're not going to be part. Guess what? You don't get the Google search engine. You don't get the Google Play Store. You don't get Google Maps." Which is why there's some of their biggest competitors worldwide are now the services that sprung up in the absence of Google. And I think that choice might have influenced what these other companies are doing, because you're going to have to fight with these locally homegrown apps, these homegrown services that were created by Chinese citizens who grew up in the infrastructure and the system that they've grown up with. They understand they understand the ins and the outs. I mean, it's a lot more subtle than I can possibly understand. It's not that, oh well, gosh, those poor Chinese citizens under the yoke of tyranny. It's like, no, there are things that you can do, there are things you can't do, there are things that they don't officially approve of, but they're not going to chase after you unless you cross this line right here. So they have the ability to create these competing message services and search services and cloud services that can be absolutely have the 4-star rating from the Communist Party. While still allowing these companies to create services for locals, and having that knowledge and that market share makes it even more difficult now for Google to get back into there, for message services to get back in there. Message services that have been there forever now. They're having such a hard time competing because they don't know how to work in this specific environment. And I also have to say, even though I think that Google should be praised for making that decision in 2011, because even in 2011 it was understood exactly how big a market this was and what they were turning down. I'm not so sure that in 2019, if they had the success of the Google services and stores and search engines, and they had to face the sort of decision that Apple has to make, which is to not only turn off the taps of knowing exactly how many billions of dollars they're making every year, but also having to hugely disrupt their company and not being able to manufacture, the risk that they're going to honk off the government so much that's going to become much, much more difficult for them to manufacture in that country. And few companies Apple's scale are as dependent upon Chinese manufacturing at this point than Apple is. So I'm not suggesting this is simple stuff, but the basic concept, I think, is very simple, that there is right, there is wrong. If you're going to be on the side of something that most people would consider to be ethically questionable, you have to own that. You have to explain why you're making this decision. And you also really can't open up your keynote by saying how much you love freedom. And isn't it too bad that Facebook and Google don't love freedom and privacy as much as you do? Because that's, again, question. Hello. Question. Hi, Ihnatko, WGVH Boston. I have a question.
That's where you throw in that. Okay, let's take a look at that. Totally fair. Well, I think this is something that we're going to continue to be watching, frankly, because I think that we are. There's a list. I saw a list. I think it was on Reddit of all of the American companies that have been making these different concessions. Yeah. And
have you noticed movies, Mikah? Like, you go to a movie and it says 10 cent on it, and then Tom Cruise can't wear the Japanese or the Taiwanese flag on his jacket.
Yep. Isn't that incredible? So that was another thing that I didn't know until that they compare the jackets of Tom Cruise's character in Top Gun in the original, which has a Taiwanese flag in the back of it, and then the same thing that he wore for the sequel, which now does not. It's supposed to be the same jacket, but it doesn't. And the reason why you have like Marvel makes a Doctor Strange movie, and suddenly the ancient one is a white woman.
Yeah.
Not that the 30-year-old white Jewish guy who wrote the character in the 60s was necessarily culturally accurate and sensitive, but it's like, that's an interesting choice. I'm sure it was character driven.
And poor Winnie the Pooh as well. Winnie the Pooh gets a lot of flack as well. So there's a whole thing. We're gonna, like I said, I think we will continue to see American companies making moves there. Let's go ahead and move on to digging into, I wouldn't call this tea leaves per se. This is more unearthing rare treasures. This time we unearthed the rare treasure of an icon that allegedly sorta kind of looks like it is a 16-inch MacBook Pro. And so this little icon, in comparison to the standard 15-inch MacBook Pro, has some changes to the keyboard, maybe. And
the bezels.
We can tell. And of course, the bezels.
The war on bezels continues.
I saw an animated image on Twitter, which is what I call them so that no one can criticize me for my pronunciation of a certain image format.
Of ifs?
Yeah, we love you, Mikah. You're in a place of safety and love.
Well, then
nothing can happen here you don't want to happen.
What they're called, which is GIFs.
You chase it.
I thought they were
GIFs.
GIFs. Aren't they GIFs?
Chase my bliss, which is calling them GIFs. But anywho, point is this the 16-inch MacBook Pro that Leo is very sad was not announced before he took off on vacation so that he could have it with him on his
trip?
There
are so many gadgets that he didn't get in time for his vacation. It's almost like they didn't prepare properly for his departure.
Yeah, or he didn't prepare properly for his departure.
Didn't get his Pixel in time, didn't get his MacBook on time.
Yeah, isn't that bad? But
yeah.
What does this show that, I mean, it doesn't show anything, first of all, but there are, just by looking very closely.
You can see a slight indentation of an escape key, Micah. Don't take that away from me.
You're right. I'm sorry. I know how important it is for you to be able to escape.
I don't care if it's a lie. It's a beautiful lie. And until it's released, this lie will give me so much comfort. T.
I can't tell if the arrows are an inverted T. I need that as well.
Let's see.
Zoom, enhance.
Yeah.
Zoom, enhance.
Hey.
Wait a minute. Hold it there.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, what do we know about this 16-inch MacBook Pro? What do we know?
16-inch display, 15-inch chassis, new keyboard, scissor switches. Supposedly has an inverted T arrow layout. It's almost like a reversion of the keyboard with a regression on keyboard. Well,
ooh,
going back to older keyboards while going forward on more modern designs.
Yeah, I'm the most interesting thing about that device for me on the rollout is just going to be, is Apple going to comment on what would be a revolutionary change to the keyboard? Do they feel as though they don't need to rip open, they don't need to flagellate themselves and rip open their shirts and wear itchy wool sweaters for the rest of their year? But it'd be interesting if they say yes, obviously, if they introduce, when they have that list of features that they've added. Do they say, and we have a new scissor-based keyboard, you babies? Or are they going to say, plus we have a revolutionary new we were able to take everything that was great about our super low-profile keyboard and add the tactile feel that we feel as though this is the best keyboard that's ever been put in a laptop.
Fine, you get a scissor switch. You want bumpers,
yes.
You get a scissor switch.
Guess what?
I don't think they say anything. I think
we went on eBay. We bought every IBM Selectric from 1971 we could. We gave you like a keyboard with like a 2-inch throw per key. And now the laptop is a foot deep and it weighs 90 pounds. And you're going to rush out to buy it because that's all you ever wanted, was it? We worked so hard on that, every part of it, but no.
So
babies.
I think that if they're going to have an event to announce the new MacBook Pro, they have to address a different keyboard in there. But if they just sort of roll out some press releases and we have to scramble to figure out what the heck is different, that's when we won't see any kind of announcement about it. And we'll have to wait for, iFixit to tear it down or something like that to find out for sure what kind of keyboard mechanism is in it. Because they definitely don't want to, eat their hats or eat crow or whatever one of those old sayings
what is
are.
The saying?
Eat their crow's hat.
Yes.
They don't want to, but I definitely think they can't avoid it when they're talking about it and they're talking about the changes to the new MacBook Pro. If there's a significant change to the keyboard, they can't just not say that. That's a big deal. It was a big deal when they switched over.
If we look back at how they handled the Mac Pro, they didn't go up on stage with the new Mac Pro and say all the problems with the previous Mac Pro.
Right.
They handled that 2 years earlier in a low-key 3-person tete-a-tete in a Cupertino lab, and that got all that out of the way. And then they got to talk about the brand new Mac Pro. And I'm guessing that if we don't there's no October event, but if we don't get even a small event later in the year if it really is handled differently. I can't imagine them getting up on stage and talking about that keyboard, let alone for half an hour. So yeah. I think I can't imagine a world where they're up on stage for half an hour talking about how bad the old keyboard was.
In a world
where
the butterfly mechanism
not addressing,
is no longer good.
I don't think
they'll mention a word of it.
There's a difference between admitting that they were wrong about the old one, which I don't think they would do ever. But there is something to be said for what we're doing now with the keyboard is. And it's not going to be just a complete back to the original keyboard mechanism. They've probably done some version of a hybrid, and that's how they'll posit it is this is, a combination of the butterfly and the scissor mechanism. And here's what's great about it this time. And that way they're getting to tell us we've gone back to the previous keyboard mechanism without admitting defeat.
We added a new material for the keycap, and we've precision engineered it to fit even better in the unibody design. And then they'll show the scissor. They'll show the scissor mechanism on screen.
Yeah, just like
but it's not even butterfly wings around it.
AR.
If that's the graphic on the invites that gets sent out, then we'll know we've got the confirmation. But yeah, they don't have to beat themselves up. They just have to fix the problem. And so I'm sure they're not going to say there's not going to be a big cardboard coffin in which they put a 0.58 millimeter key travel keyboard in there. That said, I'm sure that part of what they're going to do is that a certain number of people that have been very, very well selected and targeted for their audiences are going to get like NDA briefings in which they do get the entire story from start to finish on background, so that when they talk about this keyboard, they can put across the message on the download that they can't put front and center on an 8K screen behind them in Apple Park. So. Which is too bad.
One turning her butterflies in early.
It's too bad. I think that Apple has a whole bunch of fascinating stories about engineering and design and bringing a product to market and not bringing a product to market. It's just too bad that you would have to probably just be in Apple University inside Apple to get those stories. There's so much that could be taught, so much that people could learn, and even just for the civilians that are just buying their products, so entertaining to know that this is how that they don't just simply say, hey, let's get everybody mad by giving them a terrible keyboard that many of them are going to find really hard to type on and it's going to cause a lot of them to fail. It was, here's why we felt so strongly about this radically different design, and we had so much faith and so much confidence in it. And yes, there were, which is not to say that there weren't fierce arguments inside about whether we should use this or not. It's too bad that none of those stories are coming out, or if they come out, it's going to be 10 years after certain people decide to leave Apple.
Now, Rene, we were just razzing you the other day due to a keyboard issue, and you said you were holding out instead of replacing the keyboard. You were holding out. Is this going to be your go-to? This 16-inch?
Yeah, so I originally had a 17-inch MacBook Pro, and back when I was working in enterprise design, and it was great, but it was so heavy. I just left it as a pseudo desktop, and I quickly, as I started doing trade shows and having to travel to events and things, I worked my way down to a 13-inch MacBook Air, and then when I had to start doing videos, I went to the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and then that started being too slow, and I went to the 15-inch MacBook Pro. But if they can get a 16-inch screen, like I'll take the biggest screen they can put in a device that I can still carry around for on a trade show floor for like 18 hours and not want to kill myself. That would be ideal for me. I actually, like I said before, I love this keyboard. Its failure rate is unacceptable. And it doesn't seem like they can actually fix this keyboard. So I'll take the new keyboard, and I will not judge it until I've used it because I'm fairly flexible when it comes to keyboards.
Same.
So that'll just be icing on a cake for me.
Rene, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about because this is something that you often bring up, and it holds true for me. Our brains are plastic, not literally plastic, but they have the property of being plastic, meaning that they can change and adjust. And so we get used to new things, and we can get used to old things. And I have a MacBook Pro, 15-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar computer. I also have a 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2015 or 2016, whenever. And the keyboards are very different between these two Macs.
And your brain's a jerk about it, right?
Yeah, it will get used to this new butterfly mechanism, and then I go back and I'm like, wow, these keys are really
and it feels
squishy.
mushy.
Yeah, on the
and then
other
that
one.
feels normal, and you go back and the other one suddenly feels too tight.
Precisely. And so I am not a clicky keyboard aficionado. I'm not, I don't need cherry bomb switches with creamsicle accents and, I don't know, bubblegum switch tops and all that stuff. I don't need that stuff. And so for me, whether I'm typing on this 15-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar or I'm typing on my iPad Pro's smart keyboard or whatever, it doesn't make much of a difference to me except if a tiny little crumb underneath the keyboard renders it useless. That's the only thing that matters to me. Like the key travel doesn't. And so from my perspective, which again, I understand is not, my perspective is not everyone's perspective, but all I need is just I think the reliable keyboard is what's important to me, and where I understand the complaints that people have, they should be able to have a reliable keyboard to use and not have to worry about.
Yeah,
I even use the iPad Pro keyboard, and it's great. It's totally different, but I love it, and I can use different keyboards. They just have to work.
And that's super mushy.
So mushy.
But
Almost as mushy.
I have a 2016 MacBook Pro, the very first one that they made with the Touch Bar, the very first one that they made with these mushy keys. and I years later, it was I think maybe a year and a half ago, is when I started noticing that the keyboard was acting a little funny, and I put it off and put it off and put it off. And I eventually, just within the last few months, took it in. I had to take it in twice because the first time they just blew it out with some air to see if that would fix it, and it didn't. I brought it back in. They fixed the problem. It went really smoothly. But the problem I had with it was not. It was great. The service was great. They were really friendly, took care of it really quickly. But what a pain in the butt it was for me to just make that appointment and go in and have it taken care of, even though it was done quickly. So I can see why people would be holding off on buying a MacBook Pro right now under the fear that they might have a keyboard that would mess up, even though there's this great keyboard fix program that takes care of it. It's such a pain to just have to do it at all. Yeah. But I could see why people would hold off until let's wait until there's a better keyboard mechanism that isn't going to just crumble under my crumbles, if you will. So yeah, it really just, no matter how easy they make it or how comfortable it is, or they do it for free and it lasts for so long, it's still just an issue of getting into that store with your keyboard, having them look at it, having them clean it out, having them replace the key, whatever they do. That's too much work. I don't want to do that. I want to buy my computer, take it home, open it up, and for the rest of my existence with it, it works. It doesn't fall apart 3 years later. It doesn't, get something stuck under it, and then some, genius says, well, it's because you're eating toast while you're using your computer while I'm going. Really? Because I think that it's because there's something wrong with this keyboard that Apple doesn't want to admit to.
I had a toast party on my old keyboard, okay?
Yeah,
it was fine.
I could set down one of those really crunchy granola bars on my old MacBook Pro.
I had croutons.
And I had a mouse on a tap dance on it, and everything was still fine afterward. But this one, I can't even sneeze in its direction.
Our target market for this laptop is for people who like to regard computers, especially $3,000 ones, as static design objects, and not people. I mean, you can get if the deluxe version comes with a free $300 Chromebook for actually doing your writing and working on. That way, you don't get fingerprints on the nice one.
Yeah, it sits to the side. You do your work there, and then you can look back at this one every once in a while and go, "Oh, how lovely."
Look at the bezels. Look at the chamfer on that edge.
That chamfered edge, though. Oh, let me tell you. Oh my goodness. Well, speaking of lovely, I am excited.
Oh, thank you.
Oh yes, I am excited. Andy,
I did trim my beards, my sideburns today. I'm glad you noticed. I wasn't going to make a thing about it, but one does like it.
In the words of the immortal Kesha, I like your beard. I really do.
Kesha's a very nice person.
Andy Ihnatko, WGBH Boston. We are excited, or I'm excited, not we, I am excited to be here hanging out with you. But I'm also excited to tell you all about Hover. Hover is the place to go to register domains quickly and easily. And in fact, while we were talking, I went ahead and registered crowshat.com. That's right. Eat your crow's hat at crowshat.com. At some point, that will start forwarding to the MacBreak Weekly page on Twit. But I went ahead and scooped up crowshat.com. Thank you, Lory Gill. I'm sorry that I beat you to it. But that's how fast and easy Hover is. I was able to talk about all the keyboards and make jokes about sneezing in its way and still register a domain super fast. In fact, it's got Apple Pay, folks. So it was easy to go in and make that order, type it in, find what I was looking for, and get that paid for in no time flat. In fact, Hover is a great way to serve as sort of a jumping off point for folks who are looking to start a new business, for entrepreneurs. You know, it often starts with the name of a thing. So in this case, Crow's Hat, which is going to be my bespoke bird hattery that I'm launching. And obviously, crowshat.com is where I will be kicking that off. But a domain is the best way to get started with a business because it shows everybody what you are trying to, put out there. Hover has over 300 domain name extensions to choose from, so you don't just have to go with the traditional .com. You can go with .ca or .co, which is one of my favorites if you want to get clever, or .design. If you're a designer or a creative professional, .design is a great thing instead of .com or .biz or .org because it's telling everyone exactly what you do. They know that, hey, you are some sort of creative professional, some sort of designer, and it's a fantastic way to sort of point things out without having to put it all on the first half of your website. It can be right there at the end, .design. You're going to find excellent technical support available to answer your questions if you have any. So, that I have really never had to contact Hover's technical support because they make it so easy to get signed up and make it so easy to plug in and get exactly what you want, whether it be forwarding or something like that. It's all there. It's all super simple and easy to use. But if you need it, they're there and they're going to make sure that they're getting you the help that you need. Hover has free WHOIS privacy protection. That is so important. You don't want to be able to have someone go and look at your domain and then be able to find out your address, find out your email, find out your phone number, find out those things. It's free. They're not upselling you on that privacy. They think that is an important thing to have right off the jump. So when I go and when I went and registered crowshat.com, I don't want people to know my address. I don't want people to know my email. That's all locked away for free, whereas some other domain name providers will charge you extra for that. It's a clean and easy to navigate user interface, and the user experience, like I said, is super simple. And they have sales all the time on popular top-level domains. In fact, there was .online was an option for Crow's Hat, which I went ahead and grabbed the .com version. But if I'd wanted the .online, I think it was like $2.99 for a year. That's ridiculous. They've always got excellent prices. By ridiculous, I mean the good kind of ridiculous. That is ridiculous. It's not hard to see why Hover is a popular choice for people, including me, who has way too many domains that I don't use, including my horrible error of registering slofi.net and slofi.org spelled with a PH instead of an F, because I am a fool. So that's always there. But those were pretty inexpensive options that I was able to get quickly and easily, and it was a popular choice for me then and still a popular choice for me now. Keep your domain name separate from your hosting. You have a place where you go and you edit your site and you put it all together and you make it look pretty, but you want to keep that separate from your hosting, so that way you have the flexibility. You can switch to a different platform very easily. If you decide, one day I want it to point to my Tumblr site and the next day I want to launch a Squarespace website, then your domain is separate and easily transferred between the two. It's pretty great for that as well. Like I said, I've got several Hover domains that get renewed every year. I always get the notifications right before. I think about 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, and then it comes through. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll keep the auto renew turned on for those. And there have been a few times where I've let them lapse because they were not worth the joke anymore. But Hover makes that super easy to do, whether you want to have the auto renew turned on or off. So they're not upselling you there either. You don't have to call and say, hey, I don't want this site anymore, please. It's all right there in the UI, simple to flip those switches. You can use a domain name that truly represents you and your passion by visiting hover.com/twit And that's going to get you 10% off your first purchase of any domain name extension for the entire first year. That's hover.com/twit for 10% off your domain name extension for a full year. And of course, thank you to Hover for your support and for the newly registered crowshat.com. We do appreciate it, Hover. Now that I have that, I can brag about it for the next 2 days, and then I will forget about it for a little while, and then Hover will say, hey, it's time to renew that domain. And I'll be like, that was a good joke. I had a good time with with Andy, Lory, and Rene that day. That's good. So this, one of the things that I have been hearing a lot about, because we've got the U1 chip in the iPhones, people are getting very into, nerds at least, are getting very into talking about what the U1 chip can provide for the future. And something that folks are talking a lot about is AR, with a device that can sort of track between 2 points, a precise location within like centimeters. You have a much better AR experience for tracking, but also just for manipulation of the space, for adding things, for dropping things and anchoring them in. And so we could maybe see Apple's AR glasses in 2020.
Interesting. Yeah,
look exactly like that.
I hope so.
I hope so. With Apple logos maybe the leaves on the top of those two logos, they change color depending on your mood. Like you can give them like angry eyebrows.
Yeah.
I love that mood.
I'm fascinated by this story. I would have bet anything that we're not going to see Apple AR glasses the next couple of years. And it's not because I have inside information or because I'm such an incredible industry analyst that I can see. It's simply that I have an idea. I have an impression of what someone who is in the know would refer to as AR glasses, and I just don't know how Apple could make them. Given I keep trying to one of my regular search things is display technology and just looking for academic papers on how to do it in such a way that you won't have the Google Glass effect of, oh my God, I can't. I like having all this stuff available just by walking around and not using my phone, but I don't like the fact that everybody's like passing me with like 8 feet on each side because I look like such a dork or like a surveillance wonk.
Watching me right now.
So yeah, I mean, I think that if Apple does ship something like that next year, either A, it'll be this wonderful display technology that'll come as a complete surprise, at least to me, or they will come up with a way of doing AR that is not linear. It's not what we're expecting it to happen, but it will be something that is eminently useful, because Apple doesn't. They're happy to be 2 or 3 years late to the ball if they think that we don't have a good idea for this, or we don't have a way that completely works. Like they're not going to do face unlock until they can ship a face unlock that doesn't work if the person's eyes are closed. They don't want to do that in a later update. Whereas other companies, not so much. So I'm fascinated by this. Now that we're seeing so many really interesting reports from people who have great track records, I'm glad to have a guess that was completely wrong, and it's nice to have an idea that in 2020 we know we're going to see Microsoft's idea of dual screen folding computers, but we've seen the demo. We've had people who had the demos of it. We know, but next we don't. That's the present we got to open on Christmas Eve, but there's still this other package under the tree from Apple that we're not going to be allowed to open, not just Christmas Day, but until we get back from Grandma's house. So we have to go to Mass. We have to go to Grandma's house for dinner. We know we've got this one big present waiting for us when we finally get home. Yeah, so that's going to be fun.
What I still can't figure out is how they're able to keep that present closed without any tape showing anywhere. It's just a perfectly wrapped present with no creases.
Yeah. Well designed.
There's micro tack on the back of the.
Is that what it is?
Do you ever wonder if that was one of the things that went into the design of Apple Park? The idea of, we want to have this completely secure and enclosed place where if we are going to test out a new phone or a new wearable or a new personal Zeppelin or whatever, we can do it without and say, by the way, we're testing, knowing that anybody who sees somebody using this, whether they're out in a jogging path, whether they're biking, whether they're just at a desk somewhere, they know that this person knows how badly they're going to be fired and sued, and then they have their faces painted purple if this gets out, because it's the time when you know that something is finally taking the wraps off of is when they have no choice. They now absolutely have to let in people that they don't completely trust, or they're going to have to let people ride the subway with this, or because they can't have the first release marred by the way, it's okay so long as you're not in any sort of a moving vehicle. And any gas fumes will render this completely useless. So it's great to think about that.
So my problem with the glasses isn't so much technical. Like, I think they'll start off very much slaved to an iPhone the way the Apple Watch did, and they'll have limited utility. But I think what Apple is struggling with too, and which might be a bigger indicator of when they ship it or not, is that killer feature. Because right now it's maps. It's like walking around and seeing which way to go, which is cool, but it's not really, oh, I have to rush out and buy this cool. And there seems to me like there has to be, like, the watch arguably had too many features at launch.
You mean like my heart rate, sending it to people?
Well, yeah, but they eventually settled on things that were really compelling. And I think they sort of need to shape that. Like, I try to figure out backwards, like, this is what the demo on stage at the keynote is going to be. And then what does it take to get to that? And I think until they have those things they can put up on the slide, it doesn't matter how mature the technology is. It has to be that complete package.
Lory,
that's very smart.
You were about to say something?
Well, what if Apple is taking a page from Google and they're just saying, like, you know what, we're going to just present this to you half-baked and see what you think. And then you can decide what you think is worth keeping. And in the next iteration, we'll make it better. Like, you have to give some credit to Google for just going for it. And then eventually it gets better. So maybe Apple is like, it's, if we did this exactly right, it'd be 3 years before we brought AR to the public, and we might lose out on it. So let's just put it out now. And if it's half baked and it doesn't work the way people expect it to, we'll know, because we'll have 1 million people using, AR glasses telling us what we should or shouldn't be doing. And then we'll have all that, like, market research out in the public. Maybe they're just shifting gears now.
And the interesting thing for both with Apple and Google with this is that we're already seeing their AR software. They have the ability to create the software because they can just have it running on a phone, where you're just obligated sometimes to look down on your phone or hold it up and just get a look at some of the buildings for the software to be able to give you that big stupid arrow that's saying, this way, idiot. I can't believe we have to tell you which way to turn, which way is right in the set of directions. And so we're seeing exactly what they want to do. All we're not seeing is the hardware that until now they weren't able to make. And one of the nicest things about most interesting announcements that Google made at their event last week was their answer to AirPods, the Pixel Buds, which and you're expecting, okay, well, now there's a crowded market of truly wireless earbuds. Of course, if Microsoft has to have their own set, then of course Apple has to have their own set, and Amazon has to have their own set. But they're really promoting it not just as, okay, yada yada yada, it's noise canceling and lasts a long time, blah blah blah. What they really want to say is that this allows you to use the Google Assistant completely untethered from any phone. You can even be, they say, 3 rooms away from your phone, and you can still make appointments, get access to information, get answers to things. And the fact that it's that tiny that people won't really see it unless they're sort of looking for it, that makes this an even more interesting and compelling product to me. So I would even be as happy if Apple simply said, we've got this new version of the AirPods that is, we got rid of the lollipop sticking out of your ear, but we're pretty much making sure that we can put Shlomo anywhere you want to have access to it. And if you're running, if you're just washing the dishes, I think audio augmented reality is really a much bigger potential than anything else that I've seen so far.
I agree with that. So whether it be the Pixel Buds or Apple or Amazon's Echo Buds, though the one augmented reality situation there with audio is being able to wear the Echo Buds and go into a Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon, and say, what aisle are the bananas on? And then it says aisle 3. And then you can go to aisle 3 and find them. I think that's an incredible feature. And to be able to tie that in,
and in Homer Simpson's voice.
Yes, exactly. If I want Samuel L. Jackson shouting at me about where the bananas are, then that works.
The bananas are down the aisle on the left.
The whiskey is in aisle 5. Don't buy that hippie granola crap.
That's good.
Wow, Lory, you've got to do an impression now.
I got nothing. I'm sorry.
You can do the Lory. Lory Gill's Amazon Echo voice.
We don't got no bananas.
we don't got no bananas. Are you kidding me?
Was stranded. The bananas couldn't be found.
Hey man, I ain't gonna fall for no banana up my tailpipe.
Oh boy. Speaking of augmented audio reality computing. Are a lot of buzzwords that I'm throwing together. AARR. Speaking of all of that, AirPods Pro are apparently in works. This is there's a rumor that these might have noise cancellation features that they could launch ahead of the holiday season. That we might see them soon, and maybe called AirPods Pro. AirPods.
Didn't they whoopsie them in the firmware? Wasn't that another one of the firmware whoopsies?
Oh, yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that. In fact, the photo on the right and the photo that we are showing, for folks who are listening, you can click on the link to the 9 to 5 Mac article. It's a little glyph, basically, that shows these.
Looks like little hair dryers.
Yeah, like little hair dryers. That's perfect. Or a little one-eyed worm hiding inside of a tennis racket. With a hole in the side of it.
Wrath of Khan nightmares now. Thank you, Micah.
Yes, you're very
welcome. Take a note of One-Eyed Worm as possible show title.
Well, maybe in another world and in another life. No, these
banned in China for sure.
I'm excited about these. It took me a while to really like my AirPods, and I think that the biggest issue there was working from home. Made me a very privileged individual in the sense that I could mostly just blast the music or audio that I wanted to blast into the air because it was just me and my dogs. But now I go places, and if I'm at work, I've got one computer there, and then I move to a different place and might have my iPad, and then I move to a different place and might have a different computer, whatever it happens to be. And to be able to switch between those without having to take out the headset that I'm wearing, or switch to a phone that I want to talk on, or whatever it happens to be, to have that one device. My AirPods that I have been great for that. Problem is, they're getting older, and now one of them completely doesn't put out sound, and the other one puts out sound at about 60% of what it once did. So I'm due for a new pair of AirPods, and I'm really holding out for these because I like to have that in-ear experience versus
Me too.
The sort of sitting on the outside of my ear. I want it to feel
what are
like
you
it's
saying,
really
Mikah?
locked in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To have it sitting on the outside of my ear and sort of rocking around and stuff like that. But then the fact that it might have noise cancellation, that's even more exciting to me because I don't typically get dizzy or have issues with noise
How much
cancellation.
battery life would you give up for it though? Because it doesn't look like they're physically that much bigger. Yeah. And active noise cancellation is a hungry little devil.
Mm-hmm.
It sure is. Yeah, you definitely wouldn't be able to just constantly use your AirPods Pro with noise canceling like all the time. You'd have to designate when you're going to use it because it certainly would use up a lot of battery life in those tiny little things.
We're not going to be able to pass up on the pluralization you did there. That was excellent. AirPods Pro.
Spoken like a true editor.
Yeah, AirPods Pro. No, I dig it. And I think that for me, I would use it in situations where ANC was required. If I am so for the other day, on an airplane. But the other day when I was trying to have a conversation to plan a show, and there was a lot of external noise that for the most part was pretty repetitive in the sense that ANC would help to sort of cut some of it out, I would use it there. But yeah, in a normal situation.
I thought you were going to say with us right now.
Yeah, I would really like to ANC you out if I could, and I'll just talk to myself. But I can't yet because I don't have these AirPods. But do we really, I'm curious, in looking into these rumors, do you think this is something, in your opinion, that could be launched this year? I mean, it makes sense as an offer before the holiday season, particularly because AirPods, the first and second gen that just has like the new case, they're pretty popular.
And the second gen, it wouldn't obviate them.
They did, didn't they?
Well, and the second gen don't get obviated, but if they use the same Pro placement that they've used previously, these would be introduced at a higher price point, and the AirPods 2 would sit underneath them, and those would look like the less expensive alternative. And then the meme would be, "Yo, can you even Pro?" Or something like that. But it would be Apple increasing, like they did with iPod, and other things over time, slowly increasing the amount of devices, and then eventually like an over-the-ears version would make a lot of sense. So I like that they're expanding the lineup.
I didn't think about that. This is not a situation where you are cutting out one of the products that one.
They're not replacing it. No, 2 replaced 1, but the Pros won't replace the 2.
Now, I still have to argue. Some people like to say that AirPods are a stocking stuffer. And I don't know where
$250 stocking stuffer. What?
Yeah,
I don't know where you come from, but where I come from, $250 or $200 or $150
physically, not financially.
My mom and my dad. My mom and my dad would have ordered me to sleep in the car for the next 3 nights just to get an appreciation for how not entitled I am to a $250 stocking stuffer. Stocking stuffer was always socks, razor blades, shaving cream,
chapstick
and candy.
Yes.
An orange.
Hand lotions. My great grandma, she was Avon to the max, and so she would always buy us little hand lotions and chapsticks that tasted like candy canes and things like that. And my younger siblings, which now I'm putting them on blast here, would have to be monitored around their chapsticks because they would eat their chapsticks.
It tastes like chocolate.
Listen, Lory, you're enabling. You have to stop. So those were stocking stuffers, not $200, not even $50 is not a stocking stuffer. I understand, Rene, what you were saying, though. It's in terms of size, it feels like a stocking stuffer. But no, that little thing gets wrapped up and tucked underneath the tree. That's a full-on present.
In a giant box. In 18 giant boxes.
Can I just speak to the design of the AirPods and how the AirPods Pro, that is, and how it's probably going to be just as uncomfortable for me as the current AirPods, which is why I don't use them anymore. Even though I do like them, I find them to still hurt my ears. And these look like they're going to be even worse, frankly.
What if they're Power Beats Pro style, though?
Are those comfy for your ears?
I'm wearing the Power Beats Pro right now because they are very comfortable. But I need that sort of soft, flexible thing that goes in my ear because without it, it just feels like somebody's got a rock inside my ear and it hurts after 30 minutes. So, I love the idea of AirPods, but I'm disappointed that they haven't found a way to execute it so that the comfort level can be a little bit better for me. I've been disappointed with the last 2 iterations of them. And I do see in the glyph that it looks like there might be some sort of soft, cushiony thing at the front of it. And that might help with the problem. But I also see that the casing is still that large, round, and even slightly larger round plastic casing that would be the part that I think would be in my ear canal, that's what starts to hurt.
Before we move off, though, can we bring up the fact that you're not the first one by far to tell me about how, I'm looking forward to the new AirPods because mine broke after recently, and I feel like for $170, I really need something to last more than a couple of years. I really can't. I'm not cheap, but I'm frugal, partly because again I'm a freelance journalist in a rapidly collapsing market. But I can't. One of the things I really associate appreciate with Apple is that you really get a lot of value for money. That even when iPhones were a couple $100 more expensive than a similarly powered or similarly featured Android phone in its kind of class, it was worth the extra couple $100 because you knew that it was built between the CPU power, between the way it's built, between the software updates. You know that you're going to get at least 4 or 5 years out of it, so long as you manage to keep it out of a toilet or keep it out of off of tile impacts. But
Micah,
it's hard to.
Didn't you drop yours in water? Didn't you wash them on accident?
I washed mine, yeah.
Yeah. So Andy, your argument is totally right, but Micah did accidentally wash his AirPods.
Yeah, I washed mine, and they were fine.
Well, no, that's fine. That's okay. I missed that part. But I know a lot of people that just because that they were wearing them while running and sweat got into them, or they were simply wearing them on hot days and sweat got in them, or for whatever reason, it just stopped working. I wish that Apple had like a better replacement policy. I know you can go back into an Apple store and just buy, if it's our warranty, you can buy a replacement bud. Yeah. But I really wish that there was at least there was one card metaphorically that you could play that said, yeah, it's been only 18 months and all the sound has gone off of the right one, where they would either do you a solid and replace it for free, or at least give you a subsidized price on a replacement. Just let me do that once, just to make sure that I get a few years out of it at least. And if the price goes up to $250, I really hope that they make a really big case about we're not just using adhesive, we're using plastic welds, we're not just using seals, we're using circuitry that in itself could work underwater. If you had up to 4 feet deep in a swimming pool full of nothing but marathoner sweat, and it will still work. You don't want to see our test facility, but we have video.
Andy, let me double down on that, because this is a really good point. I've had I've seen a few folks talk about this very thing, where they are talking about how their AirPods are not making as much sound as they used to, and so they end up getting a new pair, or they're waiting to get a new pair. To go back to what Lory was talking about, I put mine through the washing machine one time by accident, and they were fine after that. The whole issue with them going out came many months after I put them through the washing machine. This was, I'm sure, an issue of a lot of people have an issue where after a while, even if you do a good job of cleaning them, earwax gets in there and things get messed up. It's gross. It is whatever. It's how these things work. But because of that, I'm with you. I think that if I spend this amount of money on this product, I took my AirPods into the Apple store. Because one of them completely stopped playing sound. I did all of the troubleshooting features on my own. I got a little like wax cleaner thingy and did everything. Still, one of them was not working. I took them into the Apple store to see if it was, some sort of issue that could be solved via that way. And she listened to the one that wasn't working at all and tried, the same troubleshooting steps that I did, as they often do, and it would not make any sound. And then she listened to the other one, and she said, this is actually not playing at full volume, even whenever it's turned up to full volume. So I could have replaced the one that was completely not working, but then it would have came in at 100% volume, whereas the one would have come in at like 60% volume. And so it would have been better to just replace the whole thing. And at that point, I'm like, I already spent this amount of money on it. I don't feel like I should have to replace these at complete cost because it's outside of warranty at this point, or, replacement. I agree with you. I think with that level of price, if these things are designed to go in the ear, and I'm doing my doggone best to make sure that they're clean, and they're still having these issues, and I've seen so many other people talk about the same. I feel like that is something where a sort of get out of jail free card thing is an option, where within a certain period of time, I should be able to just get a subsidized, at the very least, replacement.
Yeah, but particularly now that it's been a few years, and Anker, for instance, makes a really nice pair of, like, I think they're $50, $60, and no, they're not as good as the AirPods or as the top of the line Bose, but they're $50 or $60, and they work in the sense that you get stereo sound in both ears via Bluetooth. And if they do stop working, or if you do put one through the wash, or if you do get home and realize that horrible thing where you open up your charging case and you only find one earbud or no earbuds in there, where you thought that you don't know, and now you have absolutely no idea where these things went. There's people like me that find it really, really hard to spend that kind of money. I've got $170. I'm going to make another $170 really, really quickly, but I can't afford to like just lose $170 on something that didn't really give me enough time to actually enjoy them.
Didn't give you the value, that $170 value. Yeah. I'm with you there. And in the chat, as someone's pointing out, if they don't last long and customers just buy another pair, why would Apple bother improving them? That's a fair concern. If I'm still, because for some reason I'm still going, I'm excited to get these new ones, even though these first ones sort of did me wrong, per se. I get that, and I think that's a fair concern. I think for me, it's been the functionality, the way that it's integrated, but also the size and ease of use that is involved with the size. So I do have other Bluetooth headphones. I've got different kinds of them. I've got wired headphones. I've got all different kinds of headphones, but nothing has been as simple in my sort of moving from place to place option that the AirPods provide with the little microphone built in and all that kind of stuff. So.
I'll say one thing that only just occurred to me like just about 10 minutes ago. The success of the AirPods does bode well for AR glasses that Apple happens to make, because it took me a long time to realize that the AirPods, they look almost objectively dorky because they just look so weird, but there's sort of a well-designed dorkiness about them that makes us not see the dorkiness of them, because they're an Apple design dorkiness. And so if there's any company that could convince somebody to say, yes, you don't even wear glasses in your daily life, but here are some goggles with blinking lights that shape like Apple logos. No, it's not gonna be like that. So it was, we look like dorks, but we look like dorks who can afford Apple products. So it's kind of okay.
Well-designed dorkiness is actually my aesthetic. So how am I pulling that off?
It's perfect.
You look again. I say without sarcasm or irony. I say without sarcasm or irony. You look very, very nice. And if this is going to be your standard, I'm going to have to up my game slightly. I didn't even shave today. Now I'm going to have to.
We're all gonna wear
Andy and Lory and I
suits
are
for the
coming in
next-
tuxes.
Oh wow, that's gonna be awesome. I'll have to bring a bow tie then.
A cracker of a bow tie.
That would be quite.
Leo
something.
has the fez. I'm just saying.
That's true. Now, I like this rumor. I know we're still on the rumor thing, but this is maybe the last one we'll do here. This one has me excited because I have come to love my Apple Watch and the tracking features that it provides. And we've heard for a while now that Apple's maybe working on some bands that offer their own bits of data and power tracking, or not power tracking, but power delivery and data tracking. This is something that I feel this is an area ripe for innovation, I guess, or at least an area ripe for claiming some more money from us.
Is this a patent story? Because Apple Insider is one of those sites who never say patent in the headline. Then I get all excited. I get one paragraph in and it says patent application.
It
and
is.
Again.
It is. It is.
No,
it is a patent.
Put that in the title.
But Rene, this is something super exciting to talk about because, and Mikah, you might remember this too. To me, this is like heading down that path to us getting branded watch bands that come with a branded Apple Watch face that you can use with it. For example, a Mickey Mouse watch band that gives you special Mickey Mouse watch face that can only be worn with this Mickey Mouse watch band. I'm excited for it.
And that also
Pokemon,
works as your
give me a
pass at
Pikachu.
Disney.
Yes, I'm excited about this. Like I'm
1%
glad
off
that
Disney
we're talking
rides.
about it. Rumor or no, patent or no, to me, this means that Apple's thinking. They're thinking in the background. They're going, okay, what can we do with watch bands that could make the Apple Watch itself be, have more features? Watch bands, expand to watch bands. Yes, please. Because in the end, what I want is a watch band that I go and buy that's from some brand that's my Star Wars watch band, and it also gives me a Star Wars watch base. That's all I want.
Oh, and it plays the Star Wars music as you put it on.
Yeah.
I feel like that's too simple. I mean, I love that idea alone, but I need it to also do something else. And so what is that you would know, because you practically have an address at Disney at this point, Lory. What's the thing that you can use? And it's like, it's a band that you wear NFC and you can go around.
It's actually, it's only in Florida, which is very frustrating for the Californians that I think it's just called the the FastPass band.
Okay.
I might have that totally wrong, and everybody that's a Disney fan in the chat is probably
going,
right now.
Yeah,
they're calling me out on it, but it's because I've never used it because in California they don't have the band. But yeah, it's an NFC chip in a band that you can buy your own designs of them and take them home. It's not something that you only use during the time that you're at the park and then you throw it in the garbage when it's done. It's reusable. So you have your own band, and it has your, annual pass information on it if you're a pass holder, but you can take it back and forth to the park. You can actually get in line when you haven't even entered the park yet. So from home, you can say, at 2:00, I want to go on Star Tours. And then when you're there in the park, you can go on Star Tours with it. So yeah, having that added to Apple Watch would be fantastic. And frankly, they've done a lot, even in California, to let you use your phone as your FastPass. And if they could just move that to Apple Watch, to the app, and not even needing a special band for it, but they're just steps away from having an Apple Watch app for the Disneyland app, which lets you use those FastPasses so that you wouldn't even need to buy a separate band. You could just use your Apple Watch.
Yeah, I think it would be great if Apple created just sort of a sanctified NFC strap, because a lot of the most interesting shortcuts that I've been seeing from here, there are people who are just really excited about what they can do by putting an NFC, just taking an NFC sticker, and putting it on a band. So if you had something that was like on the side of the clasp as opposed to the watch side, so it doesn't get triggered so it doesn't interfere with Apple Pay, and the ability to like sign yourself into and out of buildings, or just the ability to tap it when I caught that particular form of dementia on Android a few years ago, it was like I've got an NFC sticker at the doorway, so all I got to do is tap my phone in there to tell my house, okay, I'm home, okay, I'm going away. I had an NFC sticker like on the dashboard charger of the phone, so it could automatically flip into like my car navigation app and stuff like that. And so to have something like that that's embedded in a really fancy, really nice looking Apple Watch strap, not only would it really be cool, but it would also encourage people to do more things with NFC, or maybe even encourage more developers to have NFC controls built into their NFC activated features built into their apps.
What is the Nintendo
So yeah, there's a lot of cool things they can do with this.
What are the Nintendo
yeah.
Amiibos.
Pikachu.
Amiibos, yes.
Amiibos, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, a watch band with an amiibo on it so that you could actually change your watch band every day.
I want a Simon Belmont watch.
Yeah, and I'm thinking now, you mentioned having Pikachu on your watch. What if the Pokemon Company and Apple paired up to make a Pikachu watch band that had that whenever you used it, you could use it like the little ball that you can buy, the little throw ball.
The
Pokeball.
Yeah, the Pokeball Plus. So you could carry your Pokemon with you on your Apple Watch and make it make noises. Oh,
like a
these are such great
Tamagotchi.
ideas. Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. So here's the idea. Right now we have the pulse rate warnings. What if the band has enough charge that if it detects something really wrong with your heart, it just yells out clear and then shocks you?
I'm sold. I want an IED built into my Apple Watch. Absolutely.
I gotta say that when the concept of like branded watch bands came about, I thought that you were going to be talking about like there's a little electrical current that will actually physically brand the Apple logo into your wrist, so that even when you don't have your watch, you can prove your fealty to the mothership.
Don't you worry, I'm part of the company.
It gives you a tattoo.
Some people, so they talk about like a camera built into the watch band. I think that's foolish, but maybe that's just me. But I like the idea of if it offers more health tracking features, if it gives you better heart rate tracking, if it can give you more of a 3D perspective of the way that your heart rhythm is, if it helps with glucose monitoring, all these different features that we don't have right now that could be added via the watch band and could be added more frequently through a release of bands than you get with the yearly or so release of the watch. I think those are pretty cool ideas. Of course, as Rene points out, once again, we're looking at patents here, and as we know, patents do not always lead to actual, technology in the future per se. But it is it's a little glimpse into what the company's thinking about, at least. Now, before we move on, we've gotten all worked up. Our heart rates are high. We've got our watches yelling clear. But it's time to calm down. Open up Calm. That is the fantastic meditation and calming app, mindfulness app that we love here at Twit. In fact, I use it every night whenever I am trying to fall asleep because they have these great stories that they'll read to you whenever you're trying to fall asleep. If you're struggling with sleep, if you're struggling with stress, if you're struggling with anxiety, well, you're not alone. In fact, 1 in 3 U.S. adults don't get enough sleep. And if you're not sleeping enough, it can affect your cognitive functions during the day. So if you've got 2 shows back to back and you're not getting enough sleep for those shows, well, by golly, then you're not doing it right. And you need something like Calm. It's going to affect your learning, your problem solving, and your decision making if you're not getting enough sleep. If you download Calm, it's the #1 app for sleep. I think part of the reason for that is because there are so many different options within the app. The app gives you access to many different sleep stories, music. In fact, Leo and I just not too long ago on iOS Today discovered that Sam Smith has released a special version of one of his songs on the Calm app that's like, this song is like a 3-minute song, but it's stretched out super long, and it is specifically made for the app. The Above and Beyond, which is one of my favorite sort of easy listening in the background kind of bands or groups, they've released an album on Calm as well. And it's all great for getting calm and getting more mindful. Sleep deficiency does serious damage. Trust me. I did a podcast about sleep, which is a thing I'm going to put on a business card. But in doing a show about sleep and researching sleep and looking at new health studies about sleep, people talk about how important sleep is, but you have no idea how important sleep is. It goes to the next level of the importance of getting sleep. And when you're not getting enough sleep, it is so bad for your health. It's not just bad for your brain, but it's bad for your body as well, because you're more prone to accidents. You're more prone to depression and things like that. And you don't want those sleepless nights to turn into a lifestyle. So with Calm, you're going to discover a whole library of programs designed to help you get the sleep your brain and your body needs, like soundscapes and over 100 sleep stories narrated by soothing voices, including Jerome Flynn from Game of Thrones and even Stephen Fry. Also, Nick Offerman was a sleep story that we checked out the other day specifically for kids. So you can seize the day, sleep the night with the help of Calm. Right now, MacBreak Weekly listeners out there can get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/MacBreak. That's CALM.com/MacBreak. 50 million people have downloaded Calm, including me, Leo, and perhaps the folks on this show, because it is great to help you get some sleep, to meditate. And in fact, they even have some yoga stories in there, which I found really incredible. So you can find out why so many people have downloaded this app at calm.com/MacBreak. We thank you, Calm, for your support of this show. And now that we are back from our calming break, let's kick it into high gear. No, I kid. It's time to move on, I think, from the rumor mill, basically, is where I think we have to go, because we talked a lot about all the rumors that are out there, but there's so much more that's going on, including a story we touched a little bit on this morning for iOS Today, and it's about watchOS, and it's about wearing your Apple Watch. Apple says, here is the proper way to wear your Apple Watch. Now, this is a cute headline. Apple thinks you're wearing your Apple Watch wrong. But in truth, yeah, exactly.
If I want it around my ankle, it's going around my ankle. I think my shins look real cute with them.
You know what? Your shins do look real cute whenever you wear your Apple Watch there. But this, you
read my Instagram. That's great.
I am a subscriber. The fact is, this support article is not about you wearing your Apple Watch wrong. It is instructions and guidance on the chemical composition of the Apple Watches, letting you know about some certain allergens that are in the Apple Watch, some of the adhesives that are made as part of the process, and then people who are sensitive to certain materials. This is a legit, I feel, support document that talks about all of the components and materials for different bands and what has nickel in it and what has acrylates in them, and also about, this is the part that I think people sort of honed in on, is the part about a better fit. How you wear your Apple Watch makes a difference in terms of the readings that you get from the sensors. I don't know about you all, but I am happy being told the best way to utilize my devices. I like to read the owner's manual for as many of the products as I possibly can and learn exactly what I should do to get the best experience out of it. And so if Apple is saying, hey, if you wear the watch like this, then you're going to get the most accurate heart rate tracking features. As someone who landed in the hospital because of heart issues, I want to make sure that it's tracking my heart correctly. You know what I mean? So and then I think too, folks who do have issues where their skin can become inflamed due to certain materials, that's also a good thing to know. So how about, I don't know, do you all have Apple Watches? Have you all worn Apple Watches? Are you wearing them correctly? Interesting.
Oh, damn.
Interesting. Now that's on the other side of your wrist, isn't it?
Yeah, we Rene and Georgia Dow and I talked about this on the iMore show, and I just thought it was such a funny idea. And I agree with you, Mikah. It's important that we know how to utilize these things, especially they're expensive. We want them to work the way they're supposed to work. But so I decided that I would start wearing it like a Swatch watch from now on. So I've been having fun with it on the inside. The one thing I noticed is the lift to check does not work. It doesn't just turn on when I do the wrist flip thing, which is very frustrating.
It wrong.
Yeah, I'm lifting it wrong. I think I need to switch it to left-handed if I want it to actually make that flip. But I'm not that dedicated to the idea of it. So I think I'm just going to keep it like this because it's funny.
Man. It is funny. Yeah, when you held up your wrist and it reminds. That's how my grandpa would wear his watch.
Yeah. I'll say as an aside that I kind of like the idea of, I wish that, I'm sure someone's going to point this out to me that I haven't seen it yet, but I kind of am into the idea of the Apple Watch as a pocket watch, just as an alternative. Mm-hmm. Like if I want to just have it as in a case with a little chain and on a, not on a really, ostentatious fob, but there are times where when I'm using it like as an as a music player particularly, and as just a little like sort of gadgety sort of thing to enhance my daily wear watch that I actually own is a Casio G-Shock, partly because sometimes I need a stopwatch and it's never, when I put it into stopwatch mode, it's never not a stopwatch and it's never not a timer. But it'd be nice to have this other little thing that I've just got in the actual watch pocket of my jeans for when I need to have something a little bit more digital and when I'm not actually wearing it on a band. I would be so totally into that.
You know what? I'm thinking about getting
Andy with a Flavor Flav.
I was gonna say that. Yes.
Oh, I'm so
wearing
sorry.
It around my neck. No, that's
an iPad. So an iPad case.
Yes. And
so our former boss used to wear the BlackBerry Playbook on a chain around his neck.
I'm gonna let that one just slide on past because that's interesting.
But yeah, no, it's funny that Apple would go out of its way to explain this, particularly because one of the first really cool tips that came out of the Apple Watch after its release was people saying, "What if you it's okay if you put it on the band upside down if you want to have the dial if you want to have the scroller like on the other side or on another location." But it's good to know what, like when Apple was designing this, when Apple designed how the sensors are going to contact with things, this is what they had in mind. And it's also it's also one of the other great things about buying Apple stuff is that if you go to the iBook store, there is an actual like very nicely written and professionally laid out and written and illustrated manual. Like here's how to use the iPhone on iOS 13.1, and I'm wrapping up my my iPhone 11 review, which means that it's time for me to close the door on the things that I figured out on my own, and suddenly now I got to read the manual to see what I missed. And usually there's a lot of things that like there are things about like my iPad that I've been using for 2 years that I did not know I could do until I actually downloaded and read Apple's manual for it. So if you just go to the Books app and just go to the library, the store, and just do a search for your product, it's like, oh, I mean, I could always like download this $30 book for free that shows me. And also, I'm glad because I'm an Apple user. I'm also glad because a few years ago I did decide for myself that I no longer wanted to write like how-to Apple books. So I'm not upset about them Sherlocking my entire like book writing career.
Yeah.
And I think again, oh, and by the way, I'm wearing mine around my neck now. I think
nice. There you go.
See that would make a nice tie tack, or even if you had like a bow tie with that, like as right the knot in the middle.
Oh my goodness!
Now, of course, you'd have people like touching your Adam's apple to make calculations and stuff like that. But I'm sure, but Siri would still, Shlomo would still work.
Yeah, with the raise to speak feature, I could probably say, "Hey, Shlomo." Wow, this actually looks kind of nice now that
I'm serious. Again, not a trace of sarcasm. That actually looks pretty good.
Might have to
patent pending.
Might have to or I could even wear
create a custom face for it that has like a nice little image on it.
Oh yeah, one of those new like fire and ice faces or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would have to turn off the lock, which means I'd have to take, they're saying in the chat, except it's always locked. I would have to take the Apple Pay stuff off of it, but then I think that I could take off the lock at that point, and then I would be able to access it. But if I fastened it well enough, it would think it was against skin, and so I'd only have to type it in at the beginning of the day. And as long as it didn't lift off of the thing, then it would be right there.
Okay, like a dog collar, that sort of thing. They can still get like the pulse sort of stuff.
A choker. Now we're talking. I love it. So
a brooch.
You wear yours on your ankle. I'll wear mine as a bow tie knot. Rene, what are you going to do?
Double fist ring.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. Lory, what about you?
I'm still going to just wear it inside out.
You'll wear yours inside
I'm already
out.
doing it.
We're going to be the what is it? The Justice League, but I need an Apple Watch. I don't know. I'm not good at naming teams.
Rene, I have to suggest if you're going to go that way, to have like one Apple Watch, one with a custom watch face with like the love emoji, the other one, the other face with the hate emoji. So it'd be
you look real
tough.
face, but I like your idea better.
And a lot less painful than matching finger tattoos.
I was hoping you were doing Captain Planet. So we've got love and earth and fire, and I don't remember what all is.
No. I think at this point the planet's pretty honked off at us, and it's never going to be our friend ever again. So that's a lost cause.
Captain Planet.
I'm actually doing
Earth.
Thanos.
I want to take a minute to point out that I love that Andy keeps using honk when he's talking about. That is my favorite thing that you're starting to do now, and I hope you keep doing it for as long as we live.
Yes.
Which is not much longer because the Earth is honked off at us.
Yeah. I'd say, well, because again, that's part of the subroutine that says, "Can I say this word?" I might not, so I'll say honked off, not ex-urinationed off.
Oh yes. Let's talk about Apple Arcade because it launched and there were a lot of games that came out at the get-go. But one of the things that was supposed to be the fun feature of Apple Arcade is that they would continue to bring out new games. And so we've got 4 new games, including something called Pac-Man Party Royale, which I'm ashamed to say I have not tried yet. But if that face of Pac-Man is any indication, which for those of you listening, it's basically the face of Full Dread. Just the wide.
It's hard. It is like the final scene of The Shining, where Pac-Man is like the mom and the kid being chased by Jack. I'm not sure if I want that. Pac-Man is supposed to be taciturn, stoic. He runs away from them. He runs towards them. That is his life. That is his job. I don't want to think that if I make the wrong move, I am instilling even greater terror and panic and a possible heart attack or a stroke in this lovable yellow orb.
Now, is it perfect? Is it purposely
I might be too empathic
to be? It looks kind of low quality, and I can't tell if they're doing that on purpose to be cute. Yeah. So I told Karsten that I didn't want to show my screen, so I didn't plug in the HDMI. So he's awesome and is making it possible so you can see my screen. I apologize.
Karsten is awesome.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
So I'm launching Pac-Man Party Royale with the face of full dread. No, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one I want to use. Because I'm curious about this game now. Okay, yeah, I haven't launched this on my Mac before. Why is this not loading? But what I'm curious about. Okay, so we'll call it an issue. Oh no, now it's working. There we go. I'm curious if they're trying to do something cute where they make it look a little bit low quality for making it feel a little bit more like.
Give it that retro look.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's kind of like you if Scrabble doesn't look like Scrabble, is it really Scrabble? And Pac-Man, you can't make it like a Doom layout, first person point of view, like tunnel chaser. And it wouldn't be a bad game. It's not Pac-Man. There's something about you have to be God looking down over these pitiful creatures that you control through your indifferent moves of left, right, up, down.
Oh God, why does it move so slowly? This is a very
It seems about the speed of Pac-Man.
I just want to play classic Pac-Man, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. That's how I feel too.
This doesn't. Yeah, you don't get that. Yeah, I'm kind of bummed at this game. I'm not gonna lie. Oh wait, now I'm moving a little bit faster, and I can't tell if I'm supposed to be beating the. I don't know how this game is played.
Yeah.
I just want to play classic Pac-Man.
Right.
Anyway, that's Pac-Man Party Royale. But this goes back to the original point, which is just the fact that I love that they're continuing to launch new games. I think that's a fun thing that I can always count on with the subscription that I have, that there are new things to try out that are available, and that we are seeing these companies, be they individuals who are making games for Apple Arcade or bigger companies making games for our Apple Arcade, there may be something to this because they still continue to make games for it. So let's keep that rolling. Is my hope.
I just love being able to sample stuff. I'm subscribed on in the iOS store. I'm also subscribed in the Google Play Store, their version of it, which is not so much commissioning new games, so much as taking games that are a couple of years old, like Monument Valley, and making that iteration unlocked and free with all the in-game purchases. And what really has gotten me out of gaming is that I just don't have. It's hard for me to justify buying a game or investing the time if I don't know if I'm going to like it or not, or if the premise is so obtuse I don't really get it. And usually the only games that I wind up getting are the ones that people recommend to me. But it's so cool when this just sounds weird, and I've already paid the $5 for it, whether I use it or not. So I'm going to invest at least 5 or 10 minutes of it. And sometimes you wind up investing way more time on a deadline day than you intended to. So if it means that just like on Netflix, just like on Apple Music, if it means that just an idle whim of, gee, I wonder. I've only have 3 Prince albums. Maybe I'm gonna. What did he do other than those 3 Prince albums? And then you're like, oh my God, what a fool I am that I've done. There are like 11 different Prince albums that I've denied myself. I've denied myself that kind of sexy pleasure. What am I done to myself?
That's a show title too.
I actually canceled my Apple Arcade subscription. I know.
Lory, hold on.
I went ahead and paid through 1 extra month, so I have it through November 16th. I still currently have it because I think it's actually November 17th because I waited on purpose so that I can get it. I could pay for it 1 extra month just to give it a little more time. But here's the thing: I'm not canceling because I don't love it, because I absolutely love it. I'm canceling because I have a lot of other video games that I've spent a lot of money on that I haven't been playing because I've been playing these Apple Arcade games. So here's what I'm balancing out. And for anybody who's in the same situation as me of trying to balance out all of the video games that they love to play, I'm canceling it for now so I can catch up on the $70 video games that I've bought and new ones that are coming out that I know I'm going to buy. And then once I feel like I've done a lot of the larger console
after
gaming
Sword
stuff,
and Shield.
Yes, exactly. And then I'll hop back into the mobile gaming and use, because I love having it, but it's also for the next 6 months, foreseeable 6 months, I'm not going to be playing it. So that's a waste of the money that I would have spent on it. And it also, I find myself more likely to just sit there playing it on my iPad or iPhone than to go pick up the console. Not that playing on a console is like homework, but it's definitely hard to do. It takes more effort.
I love how much you're passionately like explaining yourself. It's as if there's the person that is in your head that is against you about this.
Like,
is just
well,
like,
you have judgy eyes, Mikah Sargent.
It's those. I know. I'm sorry. Look at my eyes. Look how judgy they are. Lory Gill, you fool.
How dare you?
How could you?
How dare?
How dare? Rene, Ritchie.
Yes.
What is your favorite Apple Arcade game right now? On the spot.
Still, I have not had that much time to play because it's the height of crazy review season, but I've been playing the card game still. I can never remember the name of, but it's just so moody and beautiful. And Where the Cards Fall, is that right?
Oh, yeah. Where the Cards Fall.
I'm going to get the name wrong. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. So I just relax and play that. And I've gone through and I've browsed through a bunch of games, and I like the Sneaky Sasquatch and all of those.
That's my favorite.
So many reviews.
Andy Ihnatko, if you have a favorite or if you have one that you've enjoyed playing on Apple Arcade, what is it?
I'm with Rene. It is like daily new review of something interesting that requires a week of research. So I'm still trying to finish What the Golf, because it just makes me so happy. And my life is my gaming life is 100% bifurcated between What the Golf, when I'm in front of my phone, and I still haven't finished Untitled Goose Game, which I'm trying to. I feel I need to have the controller in front of me to make that work. But yeah, it's a great time for gaming for people who are don't consider themselves like invested gamers, because it's like, oh, this is almost like an art piece that I get to interact with, as opposed to remember, we're doing squad 8, we're doing a button hook left, then we're gonna be are you loaded? Okay, what's your health? Give him health. Magic missile over iron. Yeah. It's like,
what's your current defense score? Well, you got to raise that by 7 points, and also $3.99 in that purchase if you want to get a new skin and do this dance. Rene,
take down that tweet about Hong Kong. We can't make any risks. Yeah. We're on the server now.
Lory, what is your favorite game right now? Well,
right now
that you're about to.
Yeah, I know, right? Right now I'm playing The Enchanted World, and that game is really fun. It's a nice little puzzle game that like those old plastic slidey puzzles where you had to slide these puzzles around like these squares to make it's similar to that, which is kind of a fun, it just kind of is very cathartic for me because it scratches that itch of like moving tiles around. But you don't have to, it's not a pictogram. You don't have to actually make an image out of it. You just have to make them line up a certain way so that you can walk down a path. It's really cute.
Yeah, I would have to say mine does fall between Sneaky Sasquatch and What the Golf. What the Golf is just a delight. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like a humor. It's like a magazine humor piece from the 1970s, but done as a game. It's like every new level is a new joke and a new. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I needed it. I needed that on a busy Tuesday. Thank you.
I agree. Well, I have had to tell some folks, hey, now's the time. If you are wanting to get rid of Apple Arcade, now's the time to do it before you do get that charge. So there's your PSA. That is public service announcement, not pumpkin spice.
Acai.
Apple. Pumpkin spice apple. Yeah, so make sure that you cancel Apple Arcade if that's something you're not wanting to stick around with. But I'm enjoying it, and we talk about different games on iOS today all the time, so I gotta keep that around. Gotta keep talking about it. Apple TV, we have Apple TV Plus. We've got a bunch of new shows that are going to be coming out soon. Apparently, some people have gotten to see C before C is available for us to see. Is that true?
Yeah, and it's Game of Thrones violent, which apparently is a thing.
It's Game of Thrones violent?
Well, some people were saying there was an unimaginable amount of violence in the third episode for an Apple show, and then someone at Apple said it was like their version of Game of Thrones. So,
okay, that's interesting. Okay.
That's reassuring because I remember how Homer Simpson would describe Branson, Missouri. It's like Las Vegas if it were run by Ned Flanders. I felt as though this is what Netflix would be like if it were run by Ned Flanders. Hearing everything about Apple's meddling and saying, "Can we have more hugs? Can we have more?" Yeah.
See, okay, not growing up near Branson, but living near Branson, quite literally like 15 minutes from Branson for 2 or 3 years. That is such an accurate description of Branson, Missouri. It's ridiculous. In fact, I lived in Springfield, which, Homer the Simpsons are apparently from all sorts of different Springfields.
So is
together,
Cobra.
Including Springfield, Missouri. Wait, Cobra is from Branson or Cobra is from Springfield?
Springfield.
Now, which Cobra?
Cobra, like Cobra Commander Cobra.
Okay.
Like Cobra!
G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, there's that, folks. There's your tidbit for the day, your trivia. I forgot about Rene trivia. It's so nice to have some Rene trivia thrown in here. That's where Cobra's from. Can we? I saw this story this morning and I'm very confused about it. Google Photos is giving unlimited full quality photo storage to iPhone users, but not to Android users. What's going on?
No,
here?
that's so. They're no longer provide. Originally, when you bought a Pixel, you would get unlimited original photo storage for it, but they've discontinued that with the Pixel 4. Now you just get high quality, and you can pay to get original quality. But because you can choose the high efficiency file format in Apple Photos, which essentially packs original quality into a smaller high quality size. I forget, I think Jonathan Morrison mentioned this first. You're essentially cheating the system. So if you're using an iPhone and you're choosing to save in HEIF and you're uploading that to Google Photos, you're essentially getting original quality for the price of high quality.
That's
and Google was accessible to reporters. They said, "Don't worry, this is a bug. We'll be fixing it shortly."
No.
Yeah, especially because you're like, but wait a minute. The point is that HEIC is actually smaller than a JPEG, so we're actually doing you a favor by allowing you to store. So no, we just decided out of spite we can't allow. We're not in the business of giving services away. Well, okay, we're giving all services away, but not the few that we've monetized.
I was going to export a bunch of just a repeat photo of that one. It's a purple imp emoji that's got like the smiling face. I was going to export a bunch of those at high resolution and upload them to my Google Photos account, but now I can't because they're fixing it. That's too bad.
We can do it before they fix it.
That's right. Let me hop on that. Darn it. Okay, so that makes sense now. Now I understand a little bit more what's going on there. Now, Luna Display is this thing that lets you connect between a Mac and an iPad, and you could sort of use your iPad as an external display. And after Luna Display introduced this feature, then Catalina came out with a feature that lets you use, what was it? Is it called Sidecar? Passerby? Yeah, Sidecar. Drive by. I don't want no scrubs, I think is also what it's called. No. Thank you, Lory. So Sidecar lets you use your iPad as a secondary display for your Mac. But now Luna Display is doing this thing where you can use older Macs that don't have Sidecar functionality to serve as secondary displays for your Mac. So they got Sherlocked-ish, but then they're like, you know what? We're not going to Sherlock. We're going to, I don't know, Burlock. I'm trying to think of something that comes before S in the alphabet that sort of works, because these are for older Macs. And so even though they can't sort of compete necessarily with the most modern things, they can say, well, you got another old Mac there that you might want to use as a secondary display. So here's this feature. I haven't actually used Sidecar very often. Have any of you really dug into it or use it regularly, or even Luna Display's functionality? Do any of you use it pretty regularly?
I use Luna Display a lot, but I've never used Sidecar because I don't have a Mac that supports it.
Oh,
I have several Catalina Macs, but I don't have a modern enough Mac to do it.
Phooey. Now, Lory, you were about to say that you...
Yes. I've used them both, and they're both absolutely fantastic. We've even written about this on iMore. They are for different types of people. If you are the kind of person who has never really used a second screen for your computer, It's not really something that's important to you or a big deal, and now it's already on your Mac, then you want Sidecar. This is because you never really needed it before, so why not? It's bare bones, it does what you need it to do, and it does it really well, but it doesn't have any bigger additional features. Whereas the Luna allows you to have additional features for artists. So it allows you a lot more manipulation using your iPad screen than Sidecar does. It has they're now working toward adding it to Windows, and now with Mac to Mac, so that you can use it on older Macs that Sidecar doesn't support. They wrote a blog a few weeks back about how I think it was something like lessons we've learned as a company about what happens when Apple Sherlock's your big thing, and it was really insightful because a lot of it was. We did this really amazing, awesome thing, and we felt honored and privileged that Apple was interested in looking at it, and later realized that, they just wanted to do their own version of this super awesome thing that we're already doing. And some of the mistakes they were saying they made along the way was focusing so heavily on Apple only products. And now they've got other products in the pipeline. They've already started doing R&D to kind of get them on track to not be so exclusive to Apple products. So Luna is definitely, it's weird to say like better than a Sidecar, but it really is. And it's because Sidecar is really for people who don't really need something like Sidecar, whereas Luna Display is for people who need more. They need, for artists, for graphic designers and things like that. It's better suited for those kinds of things. But again, on the same point, if you're not a graphic designer, if you're not an artist, you probably were never going to get Luna Display in the first place. So here you have Sidecar that just makes it so that your Mac and your MacBook Pro can talk to each other side by side, or your MacBook Pro and your iPad can talk to each other side by side. So that's it.
Okay. Well, folks, break time is almost over, but that doesn't mean the fun has to end. After this show, you can catch me and Jason Snell talking about everything iOS, watchOS, tvOS, iPadOS, all the OSs. It's iOS Today. And this morning I had him on and in the studio, and we talked about getting the most out of your the base photo features that are built into your iOS devices and your Mac as well. He just finished up a book that goes into the Photos app in detail and talks about all the new stuff that's come in iOS 13. So it's pretty interesting stuff there. And then of course I could not have him on and not talk about ultra wideband. I am fascinated with the U1 chip and the iPhone, and Jason Snell got to talk to one of the other manufacturers of an ultra wideband chip, and so we got really excited. We waxed ecstatic about the future of ultra wideband. So for everything you need to know for your iPhones, your iPads, and your Apple Watches, be sure to check out iOS Today. I'm also excited to tell you that this week's episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Zapier. By the way, this is the dance that I do for Zapier every time I talk about Zapier. Apparently the folks over at Zapier enjoy my little Zapier dance. Zapier can make you happier with these incredible automations and workflows. Growing a business is hard. You start with that domain name we told you about earlier. But you don't want to be wasting hours after that every day moving data from emails to spreadsheets to your CRM to wherever it needs to go. Does it need to go in Slack? Do you need to send out messages? Do you need to post it to the internet? Wherever it needs to go. You don't want to waste time doing that. Shouldn't all that stuff just work for you? Well, that's where Zapier comes into play. So Zapier has over 1,500 apps and is the easiest way to automate your work so that you can focus on what matters most. You get to connect all of your software together and make some magic happen. So I have talked before, bragged about using Zapier for all of its different functionality because I've used it here at Twit. One of the ways that we use it is on Thursdays, part of our show involves a prompter, and we use a Google spreadsheet, which is where we sort of have the rundown available, and we have it set up so that the plain text of the document is stored in one location, And we need to put this into a special folder in Dropbox in order for it to be pulled up on the prompter. So I've made it possible so that with Zapier, it looks to a particular folder in my Google Drive. And anytime a document gets dropped into that Google folder, no matter what it is, if it's a text, if it's a PDF, if it's whatever, it converts that document to plain text and then takes that text document and shifts it over to Dropbox and drops it there so that it's right in that prompt or script folder where it needs to be. All I have to do is copy some text, make a new document, and then I'm done. And I was just thinking literally on my way home from work the other day, I bet I could go even farther with that. And that's because Zapier has multi-step zaps. So the possibilities are endless. You're not just doing one thing and then having it do, one thing happens and then it's having it trigger another thing. You can have one thing happen that triggers one thing that does another thing, and even get down into some conditional stuff. So only when this happens, make this next thing happen. It's great for all sorts of automations. In fact, Leo uses it. He can go into his Pinboard and save a document, and then it automatically gets posted into a spreadsheet that the producer can check and see what stories he's been reading, what stories he wants to talk about. And I think that's something I'm going to need to set up too, because it's a pretty neat feature there. So you can build the solution that you need in minutes. There's no more wasting time on tasks that you know could be automated, because that's exactly what Zapier was built to do. You go to zapier.com/MacBreak, you connect the apps you use most, and let Zapier take it from there. Best of all, it's easy to build the exact solution you need in minutes without writing code or asking a developer for help. No more of that. The functionality is so simple. You just go in, you tell them the apps, and in fact, they even have some suggestions for you, which I found fun. I was like, okay, so I connect my Google Drive, and now suddenly there are 6 different projects that I realize I can work on. So I'm, of course, doing my Zapier dance, getting excited about the next big thing, and on my way home from work, thinking of new zaps I get to build. You can make more time to grow your business right now through November. Try Zapier free by going to zapier.com/MacBreak. That's zapier.com/MacBreak for your 14-day free trial. Once again, zapier.com/MacBreak. Head there, get inspired, make some zaps, and be sure to tell me about them, because I will get excited about those zaps, and I'll be doing the Zapier dance. Thank you, Zapier, for sponsoring this week's episode of MacBreak Weekly. Oh, how long I have watched MacBreak Weekly and wished I was part of the show to share my pick of the week. I'm so excited for this. This is fun. This is fun.
Is it still magical now that you've seen inside the glitter factory?
Yeah, because what happened is that I thought it was a glitter factory, but it's a sausage factory, and that's just a whole different thing. But the fact is, I do like sausage, so we're okay. It's okay. We're good. I'm right here in Petaluma. I bet they make good chicken sausage here, now that I think about it. Petaluma has, I'm getting the thumbs up. They do make good sausage here. Aunt Pruitt is telling me. So there you go. You know what? I don't want to go first. I think I want Lory to share her pick first. So Lory, tell us what you got for us.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a self-promotion, if you will. iMore and actually all of the Future Labs websites have turned on dark mode today. It's very exciting for me and very exciting for us. Everybody's going dark right now, and we finally have managed to get on board with it. So if your computer is already if it's already enabled in dark mode, as soon as you go to the site, you're just automatically in dark mode. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so pretty.
And that yellow looks good with the dark.
It does, yeah. And it was a lot of work in the back end, the team that built this and made this happen across all of the Future Labs sites. It was a lot of work and a labor of love, and I'm so glad we finally did it. So visit iMore.com with dark mode on your computer, or you can manually enable it if you go up into our the menu bar in our top corner. That's another way that you can access dark mode, to either turn it off or on, depending on what your preference is. But if you're interested in seeing it, go there.
That is an excellent pick. I love dark mode. Dark mode's fun.
Me too. Yeah.
Andy Ihnatko, I'm excited about your pick because this is something that I have shared with all of my family members as often as I possibly can, and my grandma loves this. Her mailbox is a little bit farther away from her, and so she loves this. What is your pick? I didn't want to spoil it too much.
Well, I was talking earlier about like features that were in my iPad that I didn't know until I read the manual. Well, it turns out that the United States Postal Service is adding features to your physical inbox as well that you may not know about. I just found out about this a couple of weeks ago when I signed up for it. There's the service called Informed Delivery, which is a free service. You go to informeddelivery.usps.com and sign up for free. You give them an email address, and then from that point onward, every piece of every letter and every package that is headed to your address, if it's been scanned by like an automated like delivery system, will just appear in this online dashboard. So if you got a PO box that's a town over, or if you just don't like go get your mail like more than like twice or three times a week, you can actually go to sign in, go to the website, and it will show you pictures of every like letter-sized piece of mail you've got coming. I'm not talking about like tracking numbers. I'm talking about you will see actual images. So you know, I'll be darned, that person that I've been pestering and invoicing for the past 9 months actually sent me a check. I'm definitely going to go downstairs and pick that up now.
Right? It's not just junk mail. I finally have some real mail.
Exactly. I mean, because that really is the thing. Like, I'm out of the habit of like, oh boy, here comes the mail person. Let's see if my package from Battle Creek, Michigan is here. My styrofoam airline from Cheerios box tops. It's more like, oh great, here are like 18 more offers from Capital One. Here are 22 more offers from like Capital whatever. No, exactly. It's like there's this like every single like letter size thing is like this piece of junk mail from this other company or whatever. But you can see like, okay, actually there is something down there that's worth actually coming down and collecting. There's a check, or there's something like that looks like a bill that I don't know is coming, and it doesn't look like a credit card offer that's designed to trick me into thinking it's a bill and I should open it up. You also get free tracking of every package, whether it has tracking, the tracking charge applied to it or not. So if there's an eBay thing that's coming in, or just something candy coming in from you, a gift because you're a great person and your family loves you, you can see that, oh look, there's a package that's coming in. It should be here on Tuesday, and then right there from the dashboard, you can say, "Can you actually deliver it on Wednesday or Thursday instead? Because I'm not going to be home. I don't want it to freeze or melt or have one of my neighbors steal it." And again, this is like completely free. It's not something that you have to have a special app for, or that you have to be special like USPS Prime annual delivery. It's like just the idea of like having a dashboard on my phone where I can see pictures of all my mail.
Yes,
that's just fun.
The little chuckle that you have is exactly how I feel about it. It's kind of a joy.
And and again, if they're willing to give it to you for free, and you can take it for fun.
There you go. All right, Rene, what is your pick?
So I'm wearing my pick on my head. It's the new Beats Solo Pro, because everything is Pro now, and they are the latest generation of the on-ear, not around the ear, not in ear, not over the ear. These are just on the ear. They're not my favorite kind of headphone. I vastly prefer either in ear or over the ear headphones, but I know a lot of people like these as well. And what's new with them is, first, they have the Apple H1 chip, so they pair as elegantly as second generation AirPods, and they also switch between your Apple devices just as easily. They will work as Bluetooth devices on everything else, but if you have iOS or macOS or watchOS, they'll give you that extra little bit of seamlessness. They pair as soon as you open them, they're on. When you close them, they're off. They also have what Apple's calling adaptive noise canceling. So not just active noise canceling, but they try to model your ears. So if you have hair or earrings, or they're askew, they're not perfectly on your ear, they'll try to overcome that and still give you ideal noise canceling. They also have a transparency mode, so you can let some of the outside world in computationally. It's not the real outside world, but it's a filtered version of it. Or you can just turn ANC off and listen as you would a regular set of non-actively noise canceling on-ear headphones. And they come in a nice range of colors. There's black, white, gray, and also some more matte versions, which are red, light blue, and dark blue. They're pricey. They are $300, which is a lot. But in the active noise canceling, big old stylish headphone space, that's That's a fairly active price. I don't think they're enough to tear anybody away from their lifelong love of Bose or Sony if they're already ensconced in those. But if you love you some H1 chipsettiness and you like the Beats, they've, in the words of Lory Gill, they've sort of grown up. They're not quite as rebellious with the bass as they used to be. They're sort of a little more mature with it now. So if you like those Beats, that Beat sound, you want active noise cancellation, and you want all the latest and greatest pairing technology, then you have the Beats Solo Pro now.
Excellent. Beats Solo Pro. And in that lovely color. I'm just a little disappointed they don't have a midnight green. That would be nice.
Well, they have moss green.
If they could release their headphones in the same colors as the Apple Watches, that would be great. They don't ever line up with that, though.
Although the moss green Power Beats might be similar.
Yes, I would say so. That's probably
But that's
accurate,
last year's model.
Oh, so last year. Speaking of green, I am, first of all, you can't feel this because you can't smell this because we don't have smell-o-vision set up yet, although I've asked Leo to get on that. But right now there's this beautiful, lovely aroma in the air. And that's not the Sonoma aroma, which is a very bad thing that nobody warned me about until I moved here. Thanks a lot. But this is a real, actual good aroma, and it's the smell of fresh, well, not fresh leather, but the smell of real leather. All of the people out there who are like, that is a cow you're holding. I understand, but it does smell very good. This is Waterfield. That's SF bags, made in San Francisco. So right nearby, this beautiful leather bag, which you can already see it peeking out. Hello. Look at that beautiful green color. This bag is, let's see what it's called. It's called the Muzetto leather bag. It's a sling, which I know, Rene, I'm not supposed to wear it on one shoulder. I know.
You can wear two. You can wear one on each side.
This is true. And also with this, it's not big enough to where I would be loading it down with a whole lot of stuff. So I got the medium size, which is, I think it's big enough to hold the 13-ish inch laptop, but that's not something that I would put inside. Instead, inside I would, put my phone, put some of like my wallet and things like that. But it's got this beautiful padded pocket inside that has a nice place for my phone to slide in. And these pockets go all the way down to the bottom. The closure on it is magnetic, which is nice. So I can easily just flip it down and then we're done. It's got a zippered pocket on the inside where there's more storage space. And the inside is a beautiful like orange color, which pairs well with the green exterior. And have I talked about the smell? Oh my God, it smells so good. Which I'm sad because eventually that smells
another show title, please.
Have I talked about the smell?
Have I talked about the smell?
So I'm very excited about using this. And as I continue to use it and it wears down, it'll only get better with age, as they say. So this is the Muzetto leather bag from Waterfield, but they also go by SF bags. Now the small is $269, the medium is $289, and the large is $299. So it is an expensive thing, but real leather we've got going here, and very well made right here in San Francisco. So yeah, I've had this in my home as I'm getting ready to start to load it down with stuff. I've got to switch out of my usual sling into this, and any room I put it in, it's like an air freshener. Oh, it smells so good.
And I'm with you. People might thinking, oh my God, that's so much money to spend on a bag. But I finally visited in person a bag that I've been a big fan of for like a few years now. When I was in New York City, the Filson field bag, and it's like it's expensive, but if it's something that you are actually I use a laptop bag or just your basic everyday carry bag every single day of my life. And when I think about how great it is to have something that's built to last, that will actually weather with time, and that 10 years later, it's not going to be like the third or fourth or fifth bag I'll have. It'll be the one bag that's been part of my life for the past 10 years. You forget, you buy it only when you can afford it, but after you've bought it, you immediately forget about how much you paid for it, because there's such a thing as a buy it for life sort of transaction, and it's always a worthy thing when you do that right.
I agree. Yeah. One bag to rule them all.
Well, everyone's busy arguing about the Peter McKinnon bag right now, so we can apply that strategy.
Aye. Well,
$300, but it's a one carry all or some. No, it's things more than that, but whatever.
I don't know about you, but I've run the calculations, and I believe that brings us to the end of another episode of MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, thank you so much for having me on the show.
You were lovely. I was just ribbing you. I was just joshing you. It shows you how quick the rapport between us was formed. That I found I knew that you weren't going to start crying. That I could. It's lovely. This is going to be a lovely time having you here, taking care of the hosting duties for the next month. I'm looking forward to every single one of them. I hope we have an ice cream cake for you at the very last week. Of course, I can't arrange that myself, but that's something that Costin might want to consider.
Costin.
I'll put in $5. I'll sign the card.
You writing that down? It's got to be a dairy-free one, though. So hop on that. Thank you.
Well, you don't necessarily have to share it with yourself. We could just for the rest of us. You can watch us eat it. We'll enjoy it.
I'll do that.
It's dairy, but it won't be free.
Andy Ihnatko, if folks are, I don't know if
I'm on I'm going to be on GBH again this Friday. They're most Fridays. This time it's going to be 1:20-ish, 20 minutes past 1 in the afternoon, talking my usual tech slot. We're also going to be at the Boston Public Library studio. So if you're in Boston, come on by. You can watch. You can get a coffee. You can get a peanut butter cookie at the coffee shop, and watch the live version of the show, in which I again gesture a lot with my hands, even though I'm on the radio. Actually, I'm going to be showing, as I sometimes feel the need to do. I'm going to be showing off something that's visual and trying to describe it in a theater of the air sort of thing, because I think that it's a fun enough feature of the Pixel 4, the live transcription, that I really do want to talk about it a little bit.
I heard you give great tours. So one of these times I need to come. A certain Lisa Laporte was telling me you give great tours. So I need to come to Boston and get a tour from you at some point.
If you come to Boston, you will get a great tour from me. You'll get such a tour from me that you will wish that you hadn't. That's how good the tour you'll get.
The way Shakespeare is meant to be.
Lory Dark Mode Gill, thank you for being here, for having me. I'm excited to do this month with you. Managing editor at iMore, and of course at APPAHOLIK on Twitter.
You got it.
And at Lory Gill on the other social things. Is that how that goes?
Yep, you got it. You know me.
Anything you wanna plug throughout there?
No, I'm still just headed to Budokan apparently in a couple of weeks. That's it.
Okay, well, sounds fun. And Rene the Vector Ritchie, how about you, pal? Where can people get in touch with you or watch your awesome videos that you're releasing like twice a day now, practically?
You can find me at Rene Ritchie on all the socials. And my latest video is one of my happiest. It's a collab with Lory Gill, where she joined me to review the Beats Solo Pro, because she knows music the way, like, she can describe music like nobody's business. It was like I could feel the music when she was talking about it. It was great. Please, check her out.
Awesome. Well, I am usually on iOS today on Tuesdays. With Leo out, you'll be seeing me on MacBreak Weekly as well. And so I've certainly enjoyed being here today as part of the crew, which means that now I get to say it's time to get back to work, because break time is over. Thank you all for tuning in.